This tutorial will show you how to get started with Google Meet. So for teachers, from your class link Launchpad, you'll see that there's a new icon there that's been added for Google Meet. And so one of the things I recommend doing first is right-clicking on that icon. And you can see here you have the option to add that icon to favorites. And what that does is it adds a little star to that icon, but it also drops that icon down here so you can click it, find it very easily, and you can rearrange if you don't like, where it's at. You can drag and then drop, so maybe it's in an easier order for you to go through. But that is going to be the easiest way to get to Google Meet. So when you click on the Google Meet icon, it's going to take you to the spot where you can either start a meeting or join a meeting. Now, this will look a little bit different on the student's end. And the best, most secure way for you to have your students join you is to create a meeting nickname. So when we click join or start a meeting here, we're going to enter a meeting code or a meeting nickname so you can give that to your students and they can join your meeting. Now, one thing to keep in mind about these meeting codes is that they need to be a bit original. They need to be unique, or else you run the risk of having the same meeting name as somebody else and crashing their Google Meet. So we would like to make sure that we have some kind of naming protocol for your classes. So either maybe your name and your room number, or some variation of the school's initials and your name, just something that's going to be unique and not likely to be used again in the district. So if I were doing mine, I could be maybe like Schober Biology. That's going to be pretty original. If you have a name that's a little bit more generic, like Smith, Jones, you might want to add something else in there, maybe like your room number, like I said. But that should be good enough for a unique nickname for me. And that's something that we'll want to keep consistent. So then we hit continue. And you're going to be met with the screen where it's going to ask you if you are ready to join. And so you do have this moment before you're actually in the Google Meet and before it's officially started where you can kind of ready yourself, make sure that your camera settings, your audio settings, and everything are good to go. You might also have to approve that if you get the pop-up up here that says to allow permissions to use the microphone or to use the camera. Go ahead and allow those. And then once you're ready, you can go ahead and click Join Now. You can look here, you have some options. If you wanted to live stream, we can look into that a little bit later. You can change your background or blur your background. That can also be done down here. You could turn on captioning, report any problems, any troubleshooting or tips kind of in here, and then some additional settings for your audio, so your microphone and then the speakers that they're coming out of, as well as the video and the input for the video, and then your resolution. So if you find that maybe you're having some internet issues, you might want to change the resolutions, make them a little bit lower. You can also swap to just audio only, but you can toggle that on and off within the meeting itself. So we'll go ahead and select Join Now. Nicknames. Now we need to share that information with students so they can access the Google Meet as well. So the best way to do this is to add it to your course information folder in Schoology. And so remove any of the old links that you may have in there so you don't have any existing Zoom links so the kids are not confused. And then you have a couple different options for how you can add the information for students depending on how you are creating your meetings. If you're using a meeting nickname, I would go to Add Materials, and then I would add a page, and I might give them some brief directions for how to do this. So we'll type in here maybe Ms. Heischober's Google Meet. All right, so we'll give them some very simple directions. First thing they need to do is click a link to access Google Meet. It's nice to give them this option directly in Schoology, although they can access Google Meet the same way you do from the ClassLink Launchpad, and you can show them that too if they get in the habit of remembering your meeting codes. But click the link to access Google Meet. So we're going to link that word Google Meet out there by clicking the paperclip. And then we're going to enter the URL for Google Meet, which I've just copied to my clipboard. But you can type it in. It's pretty simple. It's just meet.google.com. And so we're going to insert that. So now that's clickable. And then prompt them to enter the meeting nickname. And then enter that there. And this will be nice because then the students can just copy and paste that, especially if you have a long name like mine, or if your meeting nickname is complex because you've made it unique and you've added a combination of letters and numbers. But then we can go ahead and hit create. Before we do that though, let's make sure that this little ABC button down here is highlighted so that the information displays in line. So now I can hit create, and you'll see what that looks like for our students. Now, when they click on course information, instead of having to click the link here to open this page up, they can see directly what's on that page right here. So the kids can click, and you may encourage them to copy and paste that meeting code before they click, and then click that link, and they can then hit join or start a meeting. And really, actually, for them, they're only going to see the join a meeting. They don't have the option to start a meeting. And then we can just Control V or paste and hit continue. This is going to show you another way to start a Google Meet. Instead of using the nickname option, you can schedule Google Meets to be recurring and get this recurring link through your Google Calendar. So from the ClassLink Launchpad, you want to locate the G Suite. Another really easy way to do this is we're going to be looking for our Google Calendar. So if you just type in calendar, you'll see it pops up down there. So we can click directly on that and it will open up. If we go back to ClassLink real quick though, it is going to be in that G Suite folder. And if this is the method that you want to use to create your Google Meets, then this might be the app that you want to right click and add to your favorites instead. So just keep that in mind, that even if it is in a folder, you can favorite that app to show up down at the bottom taskbar here. But let's go back to our actual calendar. You want to pick the date, and whatever date you want to start using the Google Meet is the day you're going to pick to create your event. So find that date on the calendar and just simply click in that cell, and it's going to automatically create an event for you. And so it's going to pop up with this window, and you're going to enter all the details about that event. So for this, we want to probably give it a name, something related to the class that we teach and our name. So we'll call this Miss Highshober's biology class. And then we want to change the date, the end date for this, because we want this to be a recurring link that we can use over and over again. And so let's say we want to take it out for the rest of the term. We can go all the way to, let's say, February 1st and keep it set to all day. That way you're not trying to fix this class to any one particular time, and it can be reused for any of your sections. And then we don't need to add guests. We're going to do that by sharing the link in Schoology. But you do want to click here, add a Google Meet video conferencing. And so when we click that, it's going to automatically generate a Google Meet link for us. If we click this little down arrow, we can see the details about the conference, like the meeting ID, which we can right click and copy that address so we can share that later with our students in Schoology. If your students are phoning in though, if that's something that you know any of your students do, then that might be information you also want to include in there. You can add some other information, but really we don't need to add that there. Instead, we just need to hit save. And we can see that that's a recurring event in my calendar. So now you can do a couple things to start that Google Meet. You can either always start it from your Google Calendar, and you can right click on that and hit join meeting. Or another way to do that would be going back to ClassLink and clicking on that Google Meet icon that I showed you earlier. And when you pull this up, Now, instead of just having the option to join or start a meeting, you'll see your scheduled meetings appear in that green bar underneath. So I can simply click on that and it will automatically open the window for me to join that Google Meet that I scheduled through my calendar. Now, there is a little bit of a downside to this. This link that we grabbed, it will stay the same. That makes it slightly less secure than using that meeting nickname, which will cause the link to change each time. Now, if you scheduled a meeting using the calendar, like we did with this example here, then what you can do is you can click on this and get the meeting information, and then you have the option here to copy the conference link to your clipboard. So we can go ahead and do that. So now that we've got that link copied, we can go back to our course information, and instead of adding a page, we can add a page, but an even easier way to do this for your students would be going to add materials, and then you're going to add a file, link, or external tool, and we're going to add a link. So for the link or URL, we can paste that link that we just got, and then for the title, we can say Ms. Heischober's Google Meet. And then I would uncheck display in Schoology because we're going to want this to open up in a new window for our students, but we can go ahead and hit add. And then that link will appear for students and it's clickable, and you can see when I open it up, it should take me right to Google Meet.